You know that hot streak the Rangers have been talking about going on all season? Well, it really needs to start right now.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a crippling addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into this mess of a weekend by the Rangers, getting a little bit healthier and also not healthier at the same time, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for your first deposit match up to $100. Now, the Rangers dropped 2 out of 3 games against the Boston Red Sox this weekend, looking like they were turning a corner offensively in the first couple of games, dropping a 6 spot on Friday and then a 7 spot in the win on Saturday, only to get just absolutely blanked on Sunday. Well, not absolutely blanked. 3 whole hits, 2 of them home runs, 1 of them a double. 2 of those 3 hits by Josh Young, looking like he is back to his early season form where he was just lighting the entire world on fire before that stupid Phil Maton fastball caught him at the exact wrong point in his wrist. But the rest of this offense didn't do a whole lot of anything on Sunday against Nick Pivetta, who has been a solid pitcher this year. But the fact that Pivetta's stuff was so down on Sunday, I mean, his fastball was down 2 miles an hour. Sweeper was down 2 miles an hour from where it has been on the regular, and the Rangers couldn't do much of anything against it. I feel like that is a bigger indictment of this offense than most of what's happened this season. Now, they were able to get on the board early, but Eovaldi just did not look like himself in that he was not very economical with his pitch count. He was worked up to, I believe, 50 pitches in the first 3 innings. Just a lot of long at-bats, and even though the Red Sox weren't doing a whole lot of damage to him early, it was still getting worked up into that fervor, not being able to pitch deep into this game like the Rangers needed him to. After going with 2 spot starters 2 days in a row, and both of which got rocked to varying degrees, I think Bradford pitched a lot better than his line would indicate, but still, the Rangers needed some length from their ace. They needed an ace-like performance, and if sometimes this offense has, done enough in games where the pitching staff hasn't. That wasn't really the case on Sunday, but with Nate Eovaldi on the hill, you would think that it would at least be a little bit closer down the stretch. But no, it just wasn't. It was not a vintage Nathan Eovaldi game, and his line looks a lot worse than he ended up pitching as well because of a welcome to Texas moment for Mr. Walter Pennington, the Rangers' left-handed pitcher who they acquired in the Michael Lorenzen trade, coming in and in his first batter of work, gives up a 3-run bomb that puts this game out of reach at that point. Not that big a deficit, only 6-4, but with how this offense was hitting that day, it was not happening for the Rangers offense on Sunday in a game that they needed, which they need every single game. Up from this point to the end of the season, there can be no, 3-4 game slump. This is go time. This is all hands on deck. This is, baseballs to the wall, hopefully over the wall. Hopefully you're the one that's hitting them there at this point. This was an incredibly frustrating weekend. I think the most frustrating game, besides the offense just evaporating outside of those 3 big hits from Seager and Josh Young on Sunday, Friday was even more upsetting. Urania, who has been very, very solid for the Rangers this year in multiple different roles, whether he's coming out of the starting rotation, out of the bullpen, no matter what he's been doing this year, for the most part, he has been very, very solid. albeit a little bit lucky. The strikeouts haven't been elite. The walks have been fine. He just allowed a lot of soft contact singles and doubles. Not hit super, super hard all year, but still, eventually, you're going to get rocked. Eventually, those numbers are not going to go in your favor, and 4 innings and 7 runs was just not what the Rangers were hoping for on Friday night. They entered that game coming off of 2 straight just brutal losses to the Cardinals, and not to mention that entire road trip just being an abject disaster. But they also headed in with Max Scherzer, knowing that he would need an extra day's rest. They thought he would be fine for maybe Saturday, but alas, they had to put Max Scherzer on the 15-day IL. So now the Rangers are rolling with, well, thankfully, Tyler Mahle is coming back on Tuesday to help this rotation at the exact right point, but it might be too little too late. They're waiting on updates for Jacob deGrom. He is going to throw against live hitters before starting a rehab assignment. He has looked good. He had another bullpen session on Saturday. 3 ups and downs, 15 pitches each time of those simulated innings in the bullpen. And he threw his entire arsenal and looked good. Felt good. The Rangers need him like now, yesterday, 2 weeks ago. But they are not going to rush him to just jump him up here immediately. There is a process. It is a long process. But hopefully, Bochy said he doesn't feel like he's too far away. A couple weeks ago or earlier, around the trade deadline, I believe it was the 30th, that Chris Young said that Jacob deGrom was 30 to 40 days away from returning, which would put him back towards the very end of August, early September. The Rangers are hoping that it's a little bit earlier than that. Not entirely sure how many rehab outings he's going to have. Not sure entirely when he is going to face those live hitters. Maybe it'll be today. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. Not sure exactly what it is, but the Rangers need their ace back. They need the rest of this staff to step up like they have all year. The offense is kind of turning a corner. Corey Seager's been absolutely on fire. Granted, no one's been ahead of him for his hot streak to really matter all that much. I mean, in the last 7 games, he's hitting .345 with a .690 slugging percentage and only 5 RBIs. In his last 15 games, he's got a .569 slugging percentage, hitting .328, and only 6 RBIs in his last 15 games, despite those 4 home runs in that span. Because nobody's getting on ahead of him. This offense is just so inconsistent. It is just so incredibly frustrating. And it has been so lifeless all year long. Even when you get occasional hot streaks by a couple of guys, usually it's just 1 or 2 guys in the lineup that's getting hot at a given moment, and the rest of the lineup not doing all that much. Saturday's game was really encouraging to see that kind of production from the bottom of the lineup. To see a multi-hit game and a 3-run homer by Jonah Heim. That was huge. To see Leody Taveras with a multi-hit game and a home run in 2 straight games for Leody. Incredibly encouraging. Heck, the bottom 3 in this order, each having multi-hit games and driving in a run and scoring at least 1 run. Massive for this lineup. But they can't do it alone. They need a full effort from everybody. They need everybody in this lineup to just catch fire and stay on fire for the next 60 to 90 days, depending on how far they go in the playoffs, if they even get there. Heck, if they even get above 500. That's in question for this season. They have been below 500 since May, and they've gotten close. They've gotten close to getting back there, but not close enough. Not over that hump. Not over where the Astros and the Mariners are, or heck, even some of the teams ahead of them in the wild card. This was a chance to gain a little bit of ground in the wild card, maybe think about that being a hope for you making the playoffs, but that wasn't the case. It seems like no matter what this team does, they are going to be playing in that wild card series if they make the playoffs, which is a big ol' if at this moment. Because even if the offense is turning it back on, having this kind of, nonsensory, this kind of, badness from the rotation, I don't know if it's even going to matter if this offense turns it back on. It is just an incredibly frustrating, mind-numbingly aggravating place to be as a team with so many questions and so few answers that they need this hot streak and they need it to last a long, long time if they're going to catch the Houston Astros or the Seattle Mariners. This show is brought to you by Liquid IV. When you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. You can find all your favorite flavors on their website, from acai berry to lemon lime and pina colada as well. Tear, pour, live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Powered by LIV Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. It's always GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So no more thirsty summers when you look for indulgent hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop for better hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Now, last year's championship run, while it was great, it did clearly take a toll on this team. I feel like some of the exhaustion of having a month addition to what they're used to for regular season clearly is having some ramifications of the exhaustion of this team. Just the offense not being anywhere near what it was last year. And the players who were on that championship team weren't the only ones who had a much longer season than they were used to. Last year, Wyatt Langford played in 108 games total after never playing more than 66 games in a season. And so the Rangers decided to give him a couple of days off here in August after a really tough month of July for the rookie. Bruce Bochy said that he was dealing with some back tightness, which immediately raised a lot of red flags in my head. Just thinking, oh God. One outstanding Rangers outfield prospect already lost this not entire season, but most of the season to a back injury. And once you see back injury again with another youngster in his early 20s, you think, oh God, oh please, don't be another thing. Don't let back injuries take both of these guys. No. Thankfully, it was just a little bit of tightness. Bochy said he could have played through it, would have been just fine. But still, the wear and tear of this season, Langford has played in, what is it now? Maybe as many games as last year. Not quite. 86 games so far for him this season after an outstanding month of June. After having to take that time off on the IL with the hamstring injury, he came back and was absolutely on fire. But now it seems like the wear and tear of the full season grind, the 162 grind, is getting to him just a little bit, getting him off his feet for a couple of days. While initially you think, oh God, please don't let it be another injury, especially after suffering the Scherzer injury and the John Gray injury in the last week, or I guess technically 8 days. It is a frightening place to be. The Rangers were just being extra cautious with their rookie, who is going to be a very important part of this team moving forward, and I totally respect and agree with that decision. Just give him a little bit of time off. Probably not going to be the only time off he gets for now until the end of the season. Getting Jonah Heim off of his feet for 3 days seemed to work very, very well. Of him getting that multi-hit day, including that massive 3-run homer in the win on Saturday. That was huge. And just getting another catcher who can start and provide a little bit of offense in Carson Kelly. I think that maybe also fueling Jonah thinking, okay, I'm not as entrenched as the everyday, I got to start every single minute of every single game like I did all throughout that postseason run. I think that gets him a little bit of reprieve, a little bit of rest, which I think that everybody on this team could need. I mean, getting Zeke Duran back in the lineup more consistently, I think definitely helped. Getting Adolis Garcia a couple of days off his feet, I think definitely helped. And if Adolis Garcia doesn't find that kind of a hot streak the Rangers are looking for, you have an option to play Zeke Duran more often. I mean, I think that is something that the Rangers are definitely considering. If Zeke Duran's going to be up here at the big league level and not down in AAA, getting hot, working on some of those mechanics that he had let get away from him earlier on this season, then I think that he's got to be playing. If he's here, he's got to be playing. It gets a little bit more difficult to find him an everyday spot with Josh Young back healthy, with Josh Smith being fantastic for this season, and with Wyatt Langford being your everyday left fielder. But you'll find somewhere. There's always somewhere that this offense can improve. Maybe he gets some days to get Nathaniel Lowe off of his feet from playing every single day. Maybe he gets some time, on the left side of the infield to get Corey Seager a half day, or maybe that'll be Josh Smith's spot. I don't know. But whatever it is, this offense, this team just needs a collective jolt. Needs some kind of spark of something. And when you're facing off against Houston, your biggest rival, maybe that's the spark that gets this team going. I don't know. I'm honestly a little tired of sitting here after every crappy series, after every offensive flop, after every embarrassing loss, saying, okay, maybe this be the thing that sparks this team. Maybe this. Maybe there's nothing that sparks this team this year. Maybe this is just who this team is this year. And I don't think that's some horrible indictment on Chris Young or Bruce Bochy or these players. Repeating is hard. There's a reason it hasn't happened since 2000. It is incredibly difficult. There are a lot of good teams, but it's really frustrating to watch this team flounder this year when it feels like there aren't any teams that are just absolute juggernauts that you're terrified of come October. Sure, the Baltimore Orioles are a really good team with a really good lineup, but their pitching staff has got some holes in it. Sure, they've got Corbin Burns at the top of their rotation. Sure, they've got Yennier Cano in the back end of the bullpen, but, they're by no means an unstoppable juggernaut. Sure, the Yankees have, two of the best, probably three hitters in baseball. Sure, they've got Garrett Cole. But the rest of that team, it's been suspect. They had a month-long stretch where they were one of the worst teams in baseball. Maybe the worst. Probably not, because it's hard to top what the Chicago White Sox are doing over there with this absolute mess of a season. But even the Dodgers and the Braves, who were thought of as, unstoppable heading into this season, unbeatable. The Dodgers got Shohei Ohtani, and they also made a bunch of other trades and upped their rotation and blah, 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 blah. And they've been good, but not unbeatable. So a chance to get back in there, get back into the dance, and defend your crown with the same lineup that was destroying everyone last year. And then you add in what we thought would be a full season of Evan Carter, what has been mostly a full season from Wyatt Langford. You thought, okay, surely this offense improves, and it's regressed to a tremendous degree. And now that it seems like the offense is, getting healthier, getting back closer to what we had expected, the pitching staff is starting to fall apart. I mean, this team just cannot catch a break. They just absolutely cannot. There is just nothing going right, going their way at this point. Heck, even Andrew Chafin giving up a home run this weekend, not looking like, this is supposed to be the world-beating pitcher that the Rangers traded for. One of the two additions they made at the deadline. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is in this team. I'm kind of running out of questions, and they are running out of answers. They're running out of time to have any kind of answer. But if they're going to have some kind of answer, it absolutely has to start right this second with this series against the Astros. We're going to look at what this team has to do against the Astros, how the Rangers will stack up with their rotation and the question marks in it, and what can we expect from Tyler Mahle in his season debut. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because unlike other apps, in PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now turn up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. You can get in on the excitement this summer with all kinds of action, whether it's Major League Baseball, whether it's WNBA once they get back to their season, and PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, here's what the Rangers rotation is probably going to look like for the series against Houston. You got Andrew Heaney starting on Monday, Tyler Mahle starting on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, I'm not entirely sure. I'm assuming it'll be Jose Urena because he was the last person the Rangers chose to start in that spot in the rotation, but maybe it'll end up being Dane Dunning. I think it'll end up depending a lot on who was used out of the bullpen in the rest of the series. Hopefully none of the long relievers because the Rangers are winning games, or maybe it will be some of the B-side relievers because the Rangers are winning games by so much. But given where this offense and these two teams are right now, I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the case. But I feel like we're forgetting a lot about Tyler Mahle. I know I have at points in this season because the Rangers signed him. He was really one of their few big signings from this offseason. Obviously, Kirby Yates and David Robertson have been bigger signings than we thought at the time. Their contributions this year have been so needed, so valuable, so incredibly helpful to keeping this team at least with a puncher's chance of making the playoffs. But Mahle was always the headliner for me this winter. And Mahle is a guy who was never one of the best pitchers in baseball, but always a pretty good pitcher. And for a team that is in need of every single pretty good pitcher they can get, adding one more back to this rotation, especially at this point, is an incredibly big add for this team. Now, Mahle's best season probably came in 2021 with the Cincinnati Reds, a guy who, look at his ERA, and it's not all that impressive of 4.30, but you got to look at the ERA plus. You got to look at the park adjusted stats, because pitching as well as he did in Cincinnati, who is maybe the most hitter friendly ballpark outside of Coors, heck, maybe even including Coors. I mean, putting together a 3.75 ERA that season, made all 33 of his starts, pitched 180 innings with 210 strikeouts. That is a middle to top of the rotation type of pitcher. And the Rangers need every single starting pitcher they can get, with Scherzer going on the IL for at least 15 days with that shoulder fatigue, with John Gray landing on the IL before throwing a pitch on Sunday. This team needs those starters. He'll be worked up to probably around 80 to 85 pitches. Maybe he can get as high as 90, but he's saying he feels fully ready to go. He said, I wouldn't be coming off the IL if I wasn't really ready to give it my 110%. He's a guy who mixes in a four-seam fastball, a cutter, a splitter, and a slider. Mainly that four-seam fastball, cutter, splitter. The slider, not as much of a great pitch for him. Looked really good in some of his rehab outings, but this is a guy who is going to give you good strikeout numbers. He's going to avoid walking too many, avoid giving up too much hard contact. Just a solid overall pitcher that I think is going to really help this rotation both now and next year as well. I'm not entirely certain what next year's rotation will look like, but I got to think Mahle will be playing a big part in that. Hopefully, Nathan Eovaldi can bounce back after that last rough outing and kind of get himself right and just stay healthy. Because, I mean, with this rotation being on such a precipice with two guys landing on the IL and one starter traded off, not that I think that Lorenzen would really make that big a difference, given where he had been the last couple of starts. But still, every other starter helps. And getting Mahle back, I think, is an underrated, huge add for this rotation. I think he is definitely one of the Rangers that is good enough to start a playoff game. I mean, I think right now the Rangers have, if healthy, let's see, maybe 5 guys that I'd feel comfortable starting in a playoff game. Starting with DeGrom, obviously Nathan Eovaldi, Scherzer if he's healthy, then Mahle, then maybe John Gray or Andrew Heaney. Not entirely sure, but that is a solid 5. You're not going to need 5 in your postseason rotation. I think Gray would make the most sense to shove into the bullpen and be an absolutely disgustingly good late inning reliever, but they will need him in the rotation whenever he gets back. Whether that's him missing 2 weeks, which would put him back here in this rotation some point next week, which obviously the Rangers would prefer. With Scherzer going on the IL, he's going to be back at the earliest the 17th. That's a Saturday against the Twins in the midst of a 13 games and 13-day stretch for the Rangers, which is going to be brutal. That's coming up after the series against the Astros, which is going to be really difficult. I mean, that stretch, this stretch, every single game it feels like is make or break for this season. The Rangers are still only 5.5 out of the AL West, only 4.5 back of the Astros, but that means that even if the Rangers do sweep this series, they still won't pass the Astros for second place in the AL West. They'll be a half game behind, but still. That is if everything goes perfectly this weekend. So far, things have not been going perfectly for this Rangers squad. But I think getting Mahle back is such a huge welcome addition. DeGrom's timeline, I think, will determine a lot for this team. How many rehab starts he makes, whether the Rangers bring him back when he's ready to start throwing 100 pitches in a game, or 90 or whatever his pitch limit is going to be at when he is at his full max, or if they're going to bring him back when he's at 50 or 60 pitches, try and get 3 innings out of him, because 3 innings out of him is better than 3 innings out of pretty much anyone else in baseball. But this has been such a brutal week for the Rangers ever since that trip starting in Toronto. Heck, ever since everything after that series against the White Sox, which, by the way, White Sox are on a 20-game losing streak. Rangers played their part in dealing 4 of those losses in that streak. But still, this team could use some games against the White Sox, but they're not getting them. Heck, this next stretch after this series against the Astros is going to maybe break this Rangers season. You got a 6-game road trip to New York, then to Boston, a team that just wiped the floor with you. Then you got 4 games at home against the Twins, 3 games at home against the Pirates, who, well, with a rotation that they're rolling out there, with Skeens, and if Jared Jones is back by then, and just everybody else they've had in their rotation, it might be enough to just blanket these Rangers hitters, which, if the Rangers offense is bad, the Pirates offense has been even worse. But having that kind of a stretch of 13 games in 13 days, all of them against teams that have a winning record as of right now. Pittsburgh Pirates still have a winning record, a better record than the Rangers by about 3 games or so. 56 and 55 is what the Pirates are. And then the Rangers have a worse record than that. And the Pirates offense has been absolutely dreadful. And now, with the Rangers starting to see some cracks in the B side of this bullpen, the depth that has kept them in these games, even when the offense has been terrible, they're starting to see cracks from guys like Jose Urena and guys like Dane Dunning. Heck, Cody Bradford got a little bit rocked in that start. I'm still penciling him into that 5th spot in the rotation right now. But, I mean, they just need more from everybody. Heck, they even had to put Jacob Latz on the IL after a rough outing of giving up a couple of runs on Friday in a game where the Rangers clawed their way back into it, but because the B side of this bullpen wasn't able to hold those Red Sox down, and granted, it is a good Red Sox offense, I don't want to discredit that, but still, this is a major league bullpen. All the offenses you're facing are good. Well, outside of the White Sox, now that they've traded away Ranger killer Tommy Pham. But there's no excuses. There's no more time to say, oh, well, this, that, and the other. There's no qualifiers. There's no nothing. There is no kid gloves. The kid gloves are off. The safety rails are off. The lanes on the bumpers on the bowling alley, they're off. All the guardrails are off this season. There is no more time to just wish-wash away of, oh, we're better than this. Oh, we, have our best baseball to play. No, just do it. Just go out there and do it. I thought this weekend would be that for the Rangers. Turns out it wasn't. I thought that, a series in Toronto against a team that was actively selling would be able to be enough to turn this around. It wasn't. I thought, that one win heading into the trade deadline against the Cardinals, maybe that sparked. Nope. Every little, maybe this is going to spark some kind of awesome run for the Rangers has just come up limp and lifeless, just like this offense. And this is one of the last times for that. Maybe this will finally actually spark this team. Playing against a team who I'm pretty sure they do not like. You got 10 games combined the rest of the season against the Astros and the Mariners. This is your last chance to gain ground on the Astros. Your last chance to directly affect this race. So get out there, go do something, and my God, please, at least make it watchable. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.